It's Arnold here from Impact Teaching, and this is the first of a series of quick updates I'll do about different destinations that we send teachers to. What's the situation there, and what to expect really if you want to apply. I'll be doing a similar update 3 months from now, 2.5 months from now when I'm in China, probably from Shanghai. But the main reason I want to record something today is basically to say that there's still time to get involved if you'd want for this year. And that China is an amazing place. I told her myself, I've been back many, many times, and I can't wait to go back. So I'll make four quick points. I'll try to keep this under 10 minutes. Basically, one of the things I'll say is that China is kind of still our main market and one of the very best places to go for ESL. The second point is that the process has become easier visa-wise now. Third is less positive in that the market has contracted. I'll talk about what that means and what that looks like. And then the final point is a related point that experience, while not essential for all destinations, it is in China, it is a little bit more important than it used to be. So let's dive in with the first point, that China is still the main market. I think there's no great surprise to that in a way. The COVID years when it came to China were really difficult, I must say. Obviously, 3 years the country was pretty firmly shut in terms of people coming in to teach. It's coming back. I think one of the really nice things I've experienced in the last few weeks and months, and for a year really, is that when I go to universities, when I talk to people or do interviews with candidates, I hear more and more people who really had recent experience in China and loved it. And I'm so happy about that because I had such a great time myself there. And like I said, I think the COVID era was very difficult for China, but I think now it's definitely on the way back and it's much more positive. So, in terms of our programs, I'd say Poland is a close second. Thailand is really going well for us also. We have Josh, my colleague, who lives there. But China is unique. And I think, there's probably two key reasons why China is such a popular market still. One is that financially, it's just it offers perks that other destinations don't, like free flights being reimbursed, housing being offered, like either by free housing or by being offered a housing allowance. So financially, it's just a very special sort of ESL destination. And then secondly, I think, and I've experienced this myself, I just think in China, it's just so rewarding to teach because the students are so hardworking and so keen. And then there's just so many cultural differences that make it interesting mutually on a daily basis of just being out there and working with students. So as much as things have changed in China, and I'll talk about that, and it's become much more high tech, and there's all sorts of changes, I still think at its core, it's an incredibly attractive teaching market for these kind of reasons. And what's always nice, like when I go to China, like I'm doing in August, there's always a case where I hear from someone who started on our program, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, or something, who is still in China just because they're having a great time there and they're enjoying a great lifestyle. So, an amazing market. So, a procedural thing that's changed when it comes to teaching in China that's very helpful is that the visa process has been made a bit easier. So, what it looks like is that when you go to China, what you need is basically a degree, a clean background check, criminal background check, and a TEFL certificate. So there's a step called authenticating documents or legalizing documents. They're kind of interchangeably used. And for this step in the past, you needed to do three things, which is basically get a lawyer to approve it, get your own country's government, for example, here in the UK, the FCDO on behalf of the UK government to approve it. And then the third step was the Chinese embassy to also stamp this document to say it's real and authentic. So what's changed is that final step for the last year or so has no longer been needed because China has joined the Hague Convention, so that simplified the process, and that saves quite a bit of time when you want to go to China and you need to get all the visa work done and your documents approved. So we usually recommend using an agency for this. In the past, kind of this part of the process, kind of proving these documents were real and authentic, would take 3 weeks. Now it probably takes 7 working days. So that helps quite a lot. And it's one of the reasons I'm recording this video now, because if you're in the very end of May, if you're still looking at going to China in August, it's still possible. Like you could definitely do it. Like, getting in touch with us, registering, finding a school, and getting out there. Maybe this is a good time for me to briefly kind of talk about the process and how it would all work. So, for example, with us, if you're applying with us, and I'll leave a link in the description where you can apply. First step is talking to us, myself basically probably. And yeah, I would just want to know like what makes you excited about going to China? What do you like? Like, what do you expect? Like, what do you think is going to be great about it? What do you think is going to be challenging about it? And just sort of finding that out. Then talking about, the options, and I'll talk about in a second what those options look like at the moment. And then if you come on board and you pay a holding deposit or you pay a fee with us, the next step is doing a video that we can then share with our partners in China. So we can introduce your CV or resume plus the video. So that's step number one, finding the school. Step number two is his process legalizing documents, proving your key documents are real. And that means that while it's still doable, it's very much doable for people graduating this year. It's a bit more rushed at the end because you can only start legalization procedures once you have your degree. So once you've legalized your documents, you send it to the school in China. They will then process your work visa documents, which will take 2 to 4 weeks. And that's kind of a stage where, as a prospective teacher, you're basically just waiting for the documents. And then once you receive the invitation documents, you apply for the Z visa in your home country. And that's super quick. Like if you go on a Monday morning, you can get your work visa on the Wednesday if you use Express. And if you don't use Express, it's on the Thursday. So, very doable still, with 2.5, 3 months to go. So now the third point, which is a bit more challenging, which is basically about the general market in China and the ESL market. I often talk about this with candidates that I'm Dutch by nationality. I taught in China in 2002 and 2003. I could do that as a Dutch national. Probably for, a few years after that, that changed quite a long time ago. But over time, the market exploded in terms of demand, for many, many years, but also became more restrictive in terms of some requirements like nationality and other things. I'd say the height of the market in China was probably between 2015 and 2020. Sadly, I think the COVID era has really changed the game very significantly. Having recruited for a long time, I don't know the exact kind of numbers. I would guess that for every 100 teaching positions there were before COVID, there's 30 or so left. So there's many different reasons for this. Some of the reasons include that the government, I think the Chinese government has pulled a lot of funding for English teachers. We used to have a program with the Chinese government where we replaced teachers all over China with the help of the government. That program has been canceled for the time being. Another key factor is the economy, whereas China is still growing very healthily by our standards, sort of in the West. It's not the economic growth or the economic situation it was a while back. So it's all a bit slower and a little bit more challenging. So that means that there's just far fewer schools recruiting. Now, that has then led to the unfortunate situation that the schools that are recruiting are more particular about kind of what they're looking for. They're more demanding, and it makes it a little bit harder to get a teaching job in China. I think if you are basically a recent graduate or someone who wants to teach in China from the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and you don't have experience, I very much don't want to discourage you because you can still definitely go. It just means that the playing field might be a little bit different than it was before. For some reason, there's definitely a concentration of demand of English teachers in China in the South. So let's say if you're a recent graduate from the UK or the US and you want to go teach in China and you want to be in a big city, the likeliest destination now is a place like Shenzhen in Guangdong province in the South. A year ago, we were still placing recent graduates in Shanghai without any teaching experience. We're not doing that anymore. There was a case this year where we placed someone who was really great. He had no teaching experience. He wanted to go to Shanghai, and we've not been able to help him do that. And that was disappointing, of course. So that kind of shows that there's a difference now between most big cities in all over China and the South, especially in Shenzhen and to some extent in Guangzhou. So if you're kind of a new recent graduate without experience and you want to be in a big city, you're probably looking at Shenzhen or Guangzhou. And if you want to go to another part of China, it's key that you're flexible and that you're probably looking at a smaller city. And look, the thing with China is, when I say smaller city, it's all very relative because we're probably talking about a city of 3 or 4 million people that you might have not heard about. But it's still, a big urban, exciting place. But it might just not be one of the key biggest cities that you've heard of, like a Beijing or Shanghai. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of the changes in the market. And then the final point I want to make has to do with experience. And that, even a small amount of experience can actually be quite helpful. So like I said, it's certainly not essential. You can be placed without experience. But if you find ways, or if you're looking at this, because sometimes at universities, I talk to people who might want to teach in China next year or 2 years from now when they graduate. If you're watching this and you're thinking about teaching in China with a kind of a longer time frame in mind, my advice would definitely be to get some experience, informal volunteering. For example, we now run summer camp opportunities in the US, in Romania. We have a summer internship tutoring one-on-one in Shanghai. If you do any of those kind of things, it would really help your longer term kind of paid teaching application in China that I've been talking about, if you have that sort of experience. So if you have an opportunity to get that experience, definitely do it. But like I said, it's very open. There is time to still to apply. So we love talking about China, helping people get there. I'll be there in August, and I'm looking forward to that a lot and meeting up with our teachers over there. So there's still every chance to kind of get on board and apply. So I'll leave the link where you can apply in the description. Also, we're organizing a Zoom call on the 10th of June. So if you want to join that and just kind of talk for an hour about China and all our other markets and get more information and ask questions, like, very much invited for that. It's a free event on Zoom that takes place on the 10th of June. So you can sign up for that also by emailing me through the link in the description. Finally, I will say, look, if China is not your market, the COVID era was challenging for the reasons I said for us as a company. But what's been super exciting is that it's sprung all these new destinations. Like I said, Poland is really popular. We've got Hungary, which is great, 3 weeks of paid training in Budapest. We've got Thailand. We've got the summer programs in the USA and in Romania or in Shanghai. And something else that we're doing that's new is the international schools program. So say you go teach in China for 2 years, you have experience, you love teaching, but you want to be closer to home, you could become part of our international schools program. We've got schools in Poland, quite a few. We've got schools in Slovakia. I'm talking to a school in Denmark on Monday. So it's ever growing. And this is for teachers who have, let's say, 2 years teaching experience and want to continue teaching at an international school. So really excited about that. And that's something that you could become part of. So I hope this has helped. If you're interested in China and if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. My email's in the link in the description. And stay tuned to this channel because I'm doing similar videos about our Thailand program, our Poland program, and our other programs coming week. So stay tuned for that and look forward to it.